think that's about right. This room is on such a weird angle. I feel like this whole house is just on a slant, and every time I film a clip in this living room, I have to adjust the angle on it, like every time. Anyway, hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and happy new year. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and new year. I hope that January has started well for you and that you're enjoying this new beginning and this new year. I always love the beginning of a new year. I find it so nice and refreshing every year to take all my decorations down and think about what's to come and just have that fresh start, that new slate. And of course this year is particularly exciting because we are welcoming our baby any day now, and so it definitely feels like a new start in many ways. With this waiting period now of could be a few days, could be a couple of weeks until our baby girl arrives, I have been really enjoying reading. I have been just devouring reading over the last few days, and I think that often happens when I've got that extended bit of time because I'm now on maternity leave and I'm just doing a bit of pottering around and nesting, and then in the times where I'm just really exhausted and tired, I am just reading. And it's been so fun because I've been in such a reading slump over the last couple of months, and it feels like my love for reading is coming back. So I'm embracing this as much as possible until the baby arrives, and time is going to look very different, I'm sure. So I still have a little bit of money left from Christmas money, from gifts, and normally with Christmas money I tend to go and buy books because normally people give me book vouchers, but this year people just gave me cash, so I have actual money to go and spend rather than specifically Waterstones vouchers. And I thought it'd be interesting with this last little bit of money to make a little bit of a challenge. So I'm going to do a £10 book buying challenge. £10 would probably buy me one book from Waterstones or one book from Amazon, but I feel like I need more than one book to get me through these next few weeks. And so I am going to be going to lots of charity shops. I'm going to go, not lots, I'm not going to go to lots of charity shops.
No.
In my head I'm going to go to loads of charity shops, but my energy levels are like down here. So I'm not going to go to lots of charity shops. I'm going to go to a few charity shops locally, and I'm going to challenge myself to spend the remaining £10 of money I have on as many books as I can buy secondhand. And I feel like the challenge isn't necessarily going to be whether I can find a few books for £10. No, that's not the wording. The challenge isn't necessarily going to be, can I get lots of books for £10? It's more so going to be, can I find books that I want to buy for that £10? And there's a quote by C.S. Lewis, and I can't remember it exactly, but I'll put it on the screen. But he basically talks about how, as a book lover, you should be able to walk into any bookshop and find something that you enjoy. I often have that thing where I walk into a secondhand bookshop, and if I don't recognise any of the books or I've not heard of them, then I just don't pick something up. But I like the challenge of just trying to find interesting and different books this time, and not just picking up books because I've heard of them before. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, and I'm going to bring you along with me. So go and grab yourself a comforting warm drink and get cozy, and let's go book shopping. I really like this bookshelf. With the flowers on it.
How much?
I don't know.
£5. It's missing some.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's got
No.
50 in there. That's pretty good though.
Still pretty good, yeah.
Another charity shop.
Yeah.
It's just a different
It's literally
book.
the same artist's picture, isn't it?
So the first part of my book shopping challenge went really well. I've managed to pick up £5 worth of books so far from various charity shops that I've been in. But the only thing that I haven't really found is classics, and there just weren't really many classics in any of the charity shops I went to. So I'm gonna head to Mevagissey because there's a secondhand bookshop there called Hurley Books, which I really like because they always have such a good selection of classics and vintage books and that sort of thing. I've really been loving classics over this last year, and I particularly want to pick up some more Daphne du Maurier books this year. She's definitely on my more to read list, and so they usually have quite a few vintage Daphne du Maurier books, so I'll have a look at those, see which other classics they have, and just enjoy a beautiful walk around Mevagissey because the weather is so nice. It has been raining and grey and awful every day over the last couple of weeks, so the sun is finally out and we're going to enjoy some fresh air.
Great phone. Just don't drop it in the wall, whatever you do.
I'll try not to. So the bookshop that we came here to go in is actually closed for the whole of January. So we've got hot chocolate instead.
Well, I've got two, but yeah.
So I've come back from my book shopping excursions, and as you have seen in the last clips, my plan to go to my favourite secondhand bookshop did not work because their shop is closed for the month of January. Then we salvaged it by getting a hot chocolate and walking by the sea, and ended up being a really nice end to the day. So this has changed from the £10 book buying challenge that I'd originally set out to do, and I'm now going to call it a £5 book buying challenge because I spent exactly £5 on the books that I did pick up, and I managed to pick up 4 books, 2 hardbacks and 2 paperbacks, which for £5 is pretty amazing, and I'm actually really interested and intrigued by all of them. 2 of them are more popular and 2 of them I knew absolutely nothing about until I discovered them in the charity shops, which was kind of the purpose of this challenge and this video. So that's really exciting. So the first book that I picked up was £1 from a charity shop, and that was The Peach Keeper by Sarah Addison Allen, who is the author of Garden Spells, which I have heard of, but I didn't really know anything else about this author or anything else that she'd written. So it was the author name that first made me pick this book off the shelf, because I'd heard of her and I know a lot of people really like Garden Spells as a book. But then the synopsis also sounded interesting. So it's set in Walls of Water in North Carolina, and the tagline is "Where secrets are thicker than the town's famous fog." And it sounds like it follows a cast of characters, and it's about friendship and unrequited love and rebuilding your life. And it sounds just like a heartwarming, wholesome kind of read. And I looked on Goodreads, which I basically always go onto Goodreads to suss out if I want to buy a book. It has a 3.85 average rating, which to me, if something has around a 4 or like nearly a 4, so 3.85 is almost 4, then to me that is worth giving it a bit of a gamble. And a lot of the reviews talk about how the book is quite quirky and follows misfit characters who don't fit in, and it just sounds like it's going to be a nice, easygoing, heartwarming sort of read, which I don't have many of at the moment, so I'm definitely excited to read this one. The second book that I picked up was from another charity shop, and this was £2. And that was also a book that I've never heard of or seen before, or even heard the title of. And that is Mr. Golightlys Holiday by Sally Bickers. Never heard of this author, never heard of this book. What pulled me into this book was the spine. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but I just thought it looked really nice. And then I picked out the book and I thought the cover was really nice. Funnily enough, I then went into another charity shop later and they had a completely different book with exactly the same cover, which was really weird to me. But anyway, that was what drew me to this book. And then I read the synopsis. It has a blurb by Philip Pullman. Not that I've read anything by Philip Pullman, but he's obviously a very renowned and loved author. It's a book about an author who wrote this international bestseller. It was such a masterpiece novel, and instantly kind of he rose to fame. But the reputation of his book is starting to kind of decline, and he's finding himself a little bit out of touch with the modern world. So I'm guessing that something that he wrote in the book is perhaps not culturally appropriate, or perhaps has become offensive, or just is a bit out of touch with how people are today. And so he's finding himself kind of suddenly not so popular and kind of out of touch. And this reminds me very much of what's it called? This reminds me very much of An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is about an artist who he paints for a particular political time, and then as politics change in Japan, his art suddenly loses its value and he is forced to kind of catch up with the times. And I love Ishiguro, and it sounds very much like that. So it sounds really interesting, and I've never heard of this book. It just sounds really good. And again, maybe a heartwarming story, probably a story that's going to touch on some heavy themes as well. But yeah, a book that I would never ever have found if it wasn't for just doing this challenge and making myself pick up books from random shops. So that was the second book I picked up. Then the third charity shop that I went to, I feel like I picked up one book from each shop I went to. The third charity shop I went to, I picked up a book for 50p. And I think it was 50p because the dust jacket is missing from the book, which doesn't really bother me. And that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is a very popular thriller, and I have actually already read this book. I read it as a buddy read with a friend a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now actually. But I read it on Kindle. I downloaded it on Kindle. But this was one of those examples of a book that I actually do wish I had bought, because I did like it and would recommend it as a good thriller. So when I saw that they had a hardback of this for 50p, I thought, why not pick it up, and then I can have it on my shelves and I can read it again, or I can lend it out to someone and I just have it in my collection, which for 50p feels like I'm really not wasting anything by having this book, even though I've already read it. Wow, this book is actually just like badly made. It's the acknowledgements is like stuck somehow to the end of the book. Anyway, as long as it's readable, that is the main thing. I'm also not too upset that there's no dust jacket, because I actually quite like the white and black spine. I feel like that will look quite good on the shelf anyway. So that was the next book I picked up for 50p. And then finally I went into The Works, which is a... How to describe The Works? I'm going to describe it because I know that a lot of people who view my channel are not in the UK. But The Works is a shop in the UK where they have lots of discounted things. There's always discounted books. There's always like stationery, art supplies, just random things, sometimes toys and games. But it's kind of known for having very cheap books, like you can get 3 for £5 or that sort of thing. But over the last year or so, I feel like they've jumped on the TikTok book bandwagon, and they always have the popular TikTok books there for like £5 or something, so cheaper than you would buy them in a bookshop normally, but not massively cheap, and not the kind of price I was looking for in this challenge. However, I walked past and they had a massive sale poster up, so I thought I would go and look in there, and they had all of their books pretty much reduced to barely anything, like £2 or £3. So I ended up picking up a book for £1.50, and that book was Family of Liars by E. Lockhart. This is the prequel to We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, which again I read with my friend a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a really well done young adult mystery that touched on so many really interesting themes, and I thought it was really well written and well done. The prequel came out, did it come out like a year ago now? 2022, so yeah, only just over a year ago. And I never read it because to me the story was kind of complete, and I never felt like spending £10-12 to read the prequel. But this was originally $12.99, and then they reduced it to, there's actually so many stickers on here of how many reductions they've done. So they reduced it originally to £5, then they had another reduction to £4, and then they reduced it to £1.50 for the sale. So for £1.50, I felt like I might read the prequel. We Were Liars was about a girl who returns to her, like this place where she had all of her childhood holidays, because I think it's this estate or this part of an island that was owned by her family. And something like traumatic has happened to her, and she's trying to work out what's going on. And it was so good. Like the twist in that book I thought was really, really good. So perhaps this is about the events that happened that are revealed in the twist of We Were Liars, and how that actually came about. So that means in total I got 4 books for £5 in this little charity shop challenge. Well, charity shop plus 1 book is new. But I'm really happy with this. I feel like this was such a fun thing to do because it's so inexpensive. But I've ended up finding books here that, I mean, 2 books that I would just never have found or heard of or probably ever have picked up, but sound really interesting. And then also 2 popular books as well. I really enjoyed doing this challenge. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in this world, and I'll see you very soon with another video.